I'd like to welcome everybody to our February meeting for the Design Review Commission. I would first like to establish a quorum, so please call roll.
Mr. Harley?
Here.
Mr. Langwehr?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Sherman?
Here.
Mr. Gibson?
Here.
Alderman Owens?
Here.
Chairman Bruns?
I am here. Thank you. We do have a quorum. And that would bring us to the approval of the January 23rd minutes, our last meeting. Has anyone read our minutes and would like to approve them?
I've read the minutes and moved to approve the minutes of last month's meeting.
I have one correction. I was not at that meeting, but I had yes for a few of the roll call items, if that can just be corrected. Otherwise, I second.
We'll correct that.
I second it.
Very good. Please call roll.
Mr. Langwehr?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Alderman Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Hurley?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Chairman Bruns?
Yes. Minutes approved. Thank you. And after our executive session, we have adjusted the consent agenda, item number 4 for tonight. 4A, everything but water, remained on the consent agenda for the approval of their storefront modification. And item number 6, the Campbell Clinic expansion planned development phase 2, was also moved to the consent agenda with a very nice presentation, so thank you for that. Is there anyone in the audience or any Design Review Commission members that would like to have any of these items removed from this agenda, consent agenda? Hearing none, I'd like to remind all the Commission members that voting on all matters of the consent agenda constitutes an acknowledgement that you have read, reviewed each of the applications, materials, plans, and staff reports. You've determined no further discussion or presentation of the item is necessary, and so having just these 2 items, I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Move to approve. I'll second it.
Thank you. Please call roll.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Hurley?
Yes.
Alderman Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Langwehr?
Yes.
Chairman Bruns?
Yes. Consent agenda is approved, so if you were one of the lucky 4 or 6 item numbers, you may excuse yourself or you can hang around for the rest of our meeting. Thank you, gentlemen. This will bring us to item number 5, Rise Biscuits and Donuts, for the approval of the signed package. Yes, please. That is staff presentation.
Rise Biscuits, Donuts, and Righteous Chicken will be located in Saddle Creek South Shopping Center in the outbuilding here at the corner of Poplar Avenue and West Street. The request before you is for a sign package. The space occupies 24 lineal feet of store frontage at the entrance, as you can see here. That is how sign area is calculated. Per the Saddle Creek South sign policy, tenants are allowed 1.5 square feet of signage per lineal foot of frontage. So here there are 24 feet of lineal footage. Therefore, they could have 36 square feet of signage by right. They can come to the Design Review Commission to ask for up to 75 square feet per facade. That is not a given. That is at the board's discretion whether or not they wish to grant that. This particular sign policy, I'm going to go back to the previous slide. This is the one facing Poplar Avenue. The applicant would like to have a sign, a wall sign as you see here, with the complete business name, Rise Biscuits, Donuts, and Righteous Chicken. That would equal 47 square feet facing Poplar, and then have a sign over the main entrance right here facing the parking lot that would also have the same language. This sign is smaller though. This is 27 square feet. Unfortunately, there's no room for a sign here above the other set of doors facing the facing the east side, facing West Street. There's also a blade sign here, as you see here. The blade sign complies per the sign policy, and the blade sign is located right there. One other point that came to rise since the last meeting is on the package that was reviewed at the Design Review Commission subcommittee meeting, it incorrectly showed where the tenant space actually ends. The tenant space for this particular business actually ends right here, which gives them a shorter frontage. We spoke with the property management, and they said they would allow the sign to expand onto the next tenant space in order for the sign to remain symmetrical on the building. I believe those are the main points concerning the applicant's request. The applicant also provided information from corporate franchising and business license that this is his complete business name and wishes to have that on the signage. Mr. Balton, is here as the sign contractor to represent the applicant if you have questions.
Thank you. Mr. Balton, I suppose if you don't mind stepping forward, we're just, I know you are the sign representative, so we're just going to do our best to convey our thoughts, and then you will be the messenger, I suppose, moving from here. We respect not the messenger, so this should go well, and so the commission members, we all have some concerns, whatever, so I'd like them to speak up and at least tell you where we are with some things we've learned, at least on the building facade. So feel free, gentlemen.
Okay, I'll start. I guess in light of the new information on where the tenant space ends, it has never been our policy to allow, regardless of what the landlord might allow, it's never been our policy to allow the signage to run past that actual frontage. That's point number one. Point number two, with that frontage and the shorter linear footage, obviously we have some discretion to allow larger signs or signs to just conform to what the regulations say. And 1.5 square feet, correct me if I'm wrong, at 24 lineal feet allows you 36 square feet of signage per side. And I'll speak for myself, and the other design review members can chime in, yay or nay, on whether they have the same sentiment that I do, is that I believe this sign ought to come down in size to conform to that, 36 square feet, both sides, and in my opinion, it needs to stay within the frontage of the actual storefront itself. So while it does appear that the entire frontage there is everything underneath that gable, you really only have about 2/3 of that space. So it would be my recommendation to keep the signage directly centered above that center portal, but bringing the signage down in size and to stay within your actual frontage. And we all discussed this in executive committee. Our recommendation would be to use either, if I can get this to come up, and I'll turn this around, but, well, yeah, I guess, either something similar to that, or something similar to what was on the letterhead, which actually is the more descriptive of the two, that actually says righteous chicken. It would allow that descriptive language, but something similar to that. So I think I've said my piece.
Thank you. Where we see the challenge is trying to set it over the front door to keep that aesthetic feature of your sign. But now you have to subtract off, from best I can tell without a tape measure, is 4 feet of your sign, which reconfigures your sign almost in its entirety. Do you understand the part we're talking about where the Joseph A. Banks building is actually part of this? Okay, good. The calculation for Joseph A. Banks this square footage of this building has already been accounted for within their sign calculations. So we can't take one facade with 3 tenants and overlap the same square footage of the building for sign calculations. And ultimately, that's what we're looking, or this is what this application is asking for. So that's what spawned this conversation. Certainly, I know this is a surprise.
Oh, it's going to be real fun talking to him.
I respect that. I understand.
He's opening the 6th, so.
And we also understand that. So what we've tried to do between staff and commission members is try to identify the best way to move quickly to get you your sign and for your opening and everything else.
Could I add one thing, looking at this proposed sign, if one was to remove the Righteous Chicken and then take biscuits and put it on the other side where Righteous Chicken now is, so it'd just be donuts, fries, biscuits.
Or maybe it's biscuits, donuts. Like, I think that's how it's.
Correct. I'm just trying to figure out what would still
Fit.
What if we were to slip have the rise left justified and the other copy to the right of that stacked?
Or could you put rise on top and the
I
other
don't think
letters?
that's gonna.
You don't think it'll fit?
I don't think it'll fit in that. And I think that's an issue as far as the shopping center criteria and the total height of what you can have in that particular space. I don't think you can go over 24 inches, it may be.
With any given letter, or?
I think with, yes.
So
Not
this,
sign height.
this is not,
I think the band's only 32 inches.
Is that right? That was a
so
question of
that's-
mine.
That's not something that would be doable?
I can't say. I'm not
Right.
the owner, and I don't know of that. But I'm thinking of what we have to work with to really expedite the situation. That would probably work best. And I have to put that by him to see.
Absolutely.
And you're suggesting just doing the rise in the middle and then the donuts to the left
Yeah,
and right?
putting Rise its own, and then putting either the donuts and biscuits and then Righteous Chicken underneath. I don't really know how I can, because of the way everything is. You've got to go the overall height by the overall length, and
So rise remains centered.
no, it would be to the left.
Pardon me, centered on the building. They're centered in the facade.
It would be
of the
centered
door.
in the, right, and then
Okay.
you would have those centered next to the overall height of the rise.
Gotcha.
And are you saying that we have to shift the sign over, or is it okay with the placement of the sign?
We have to,
Can we still use the fascia even though you can't account for it in the square footage?
no.
So it's going to be weird looking over the front door?
Well, that's where the challenge lies. We want to see the sign centered. Now, you're talking sign heavy right, so to speak, not centered. And I think we can entertain that. Does anyone see an objection as long as rise, the main focus, I'm not going into sign design, so these are just ideas bouncing around. But rise is the centerpiece over the center of the door, I think is imperative. Do we all agree to that? Does that seem important to everyone?
Yeah, I would think so.
Chairman, one other idea that we just talked about was moving rise just up a little bit, and then underneath having biscuits, donuts, Righteous Chicken underneath. Maybe not necessarily backlit, still aluminum letters, but,
I think that solves the concern.
because then you could have everything, and that might shift this, you might be able to get all that language right underneath there without extending over into the other tenant space.
Or drop Righteous Chicken.
It is a lot of letters, there's a lot of square footage in
Definitely
there.
doesn't want to drop Righteous Chicken. I know that that's his.
Mr. Baldwin, would you foresee that maybe as being an option? To move the rise up just slightly and then have all the descriptors underneath, biscuits, donuts, Righteous Chicken?
I can lay it out tomorrow, and
Backlit for the
and
description?
I can definitely lay it out, and get it. I mean, I just don't know the spacing on, what is that, the 18 and then,
You looking for page numbers?
32, so you've got 8, 8, 16. It's going to be very tight. It'll be quite tight.
Chairman, what would you recommend at this point then? We've given Mr. Balton a couple of ideas and some feedback.
We know the sign as applied is not going to pass. So then we move forward into trying to create a sign that would pass. So how do we, I know this is as much a question for council as anyone, is what would our next step be, sir?
I think recognizing that we all would like to see something approvable through administration, our staff here, so you don't have to wait another month because we know you're opening up. And so that, I think, I'll defer to you.
Well, you can approve, you know, the sign and the way it's laid out, the square footage, and so long as it, you know, it's consistent with the description. You can leave certain things up to the discretion of the staff, but it has to be pretty clear what you're approving.
So can I ask you a question?
But I don't see why you can't do that.
Okay.
Your proposal is to move Rise over to the left,
Yes, on its own.
and then put
Thank you.
biscuits and donuts either above or below Righteous Chicken.
Correct.
On the right. How far would you move Rise over to the
As close to that,
frame of the door?
yes, sir. I would want to get
Center
right.
over the door itself? I mean, the frame of that depression in there.
Yes, I would probably, to make it look right, go as close over
I bet
as
they
I
do, too.
can to that outside edge.
Yep, that's it.
Where we've got the 24 feet mark.
Okay. Thank you.
In the middle.
Okay. Okay, so, oh, sorry.
Like, somewhere right where that, yeah.
What happened?
Boom. Just press the arrow.
Oh, did I do that? Oh, sorry.
Next up, no, I didn't.
Staff presentation, please.
So the rise would be.
It would be about where the, between the biscuits and donuts, I'm going to assume, looking from here.
Yeah. Here, Rise, and then the other two.
And then the other 2 lines would be,
Just speaking for me, I mean, if he pushes the rise to the left, recognizing he can't go within the other linear storefront, pushes that to the left, and then you've got the 3 products, if you will, that sort of balances out the rise. I guess I'm okay with that, so long as we are agreeable, I mean, that we're within the square footage that we had discussed, which is, I think, 36 square feet. That's just me, y'all.
Well, I think maybe we let, the applicant is going to have 100 different scenarios, I think also the store owner, store.
True.
So maybe we can pass a motion with specific parameters, let them do their homework,
Yep.
and then take a peek. So we'll set a square footage or any other notes that all of us would agree on, and that would be in the form of a motion toward this application, I suppose, right? And then, and that would be your passing of your sign, details to follow.
okay.
The actual sign itself, set
And-
colors and everything.
And
Color.
for the sake of expediency, it can be administratively approved?
It will be within our parameters that we set forth in this motion.
Now, we're still good with the colors we approved in the subcommittee meeting?
We are,
Okay.
yes, sir, yes. And we'll
The
make
revised colors that
Yes.
Mr. Haskins provided,
I
yeah.
have
Yes,
that, okay.
revised colors.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I'm assuming if they choose to use the letterhead colors beyond the orange or something like that, that they would have the leeway to approve that as well.
I would say no. We were going to want to be specific with color on this sign. You mean in the future?
Right. But I'm just saying, if the blue in the letterhead with the orange we've approved, would that be okay? Or is that something that would have to come back?
They haven't even explored that yet.
Okay.
So-
I'm just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just more
Yeah.
of how much room do we want to give them? You know, like the blade sign, right? If they use the blade sign as a wall sign.
Blade sign, yeah, orange and white is all we've given approval to. Two
And-
oranges.
Well, and the yellow that's in the blade sign. There's
Okay,
also
yellow,
Yeah,
yeah.
so, yeah.
Okay, so our parameters are 36 square feet
Per wall sign.
per wall sign, Poplar side, south and north side. Script, we've left open. We're limited to Rise, biscuits, donuts, righteous chicken. That is the limited text within those two signs. I'm not formulating a motion, I'm simply clarifying, and then someone can formulate a motion. Colors are as written in the application. Can someone please tell me those specific colors?
Or as modified in subcommittee, I guess,
Yes.
what that was.
I have those listed at my office.
Okay, those three colors in themselves. It is reverse channel letters.
And it's an off-white, not
Okay.
a pure white, correct?
Very good, yes,
Well, we can just stipulate colors that were approved at the subcommittee meeting.
very good. It is proposed to be lit, reverse channel. Depending on letter size, we know there's some constraints there on lighting, so that would have to be very specific in your application. But I don't think we're not saying you cannot light something if it's too small. It has to only be on your storefront, your 24 feet.
With the emphasis of it being centered over the main entrance and Poplar side, center point of the gable, I guess.
I agree with that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I know we've heard several different things. I think if we make recommendations, I know that they're going to bring back their own designs, but we've heard one with left justified with the biscuits, donuts, righteous chicken to the right of the Rise lettering. I would recommend that maybe they run out an option with Rise pushed up and those three words, biscuits, donuts, righteous chicken below it. It looks like the space that Rise is taking up, if they drop them and pull them in, they might be very close to reaching that, and that would also allow things to be centered on the gable. And then as stated earlier, I'm going to say it's my opinion that the blade sign, if that were larger, that is a very attractive logo, and also
Sign, that's a very attractive sign.
I'm sorry, sign.
Design.
And also
Use of letters.
And also the letterhead on the letter that came from corporate is also an option that we like. So I think several options would be in order for staff and the chairman to review.
I just know that his biggest concern will be able to backlight those, especially that Poplar elevation. I know that was his number one concern from the earlier meeting, so.
And I understand if they're too small, they can't be backlit. Is that correct?
Right, because of the style of letter, it's a tough one.
I think you can ease your applicant to know that everyone will be there to buy donuts when the door opens. We've all kept our eye very close on that building, so.
Right. All right.
Or chicken, we'll buy all
Or
of it.
whatever it is.
Yes, that's right.
Biscuits, chicken.
Well, does someone feel up to the motion?
Someone write it down.
Yeah,
Mr. Gregg has some notes here.
I move that the application for the Rise Biscuits and Donuts sign be approved conditional upon administrative approval at 36 square feet per face, the two faces being the north side facing Poplar, the south side facing Park, that the text remain the same, that the colors are as approved in the subcommittee meeting, that the text is entirely located on the tenant space, and that the text on the north or Poplar side is centered under the gable. To cover everything,
And
concern that was.
reverse channel letters, but not necessarily have to all be lit depending on the style.
And I'd like to include that in my motion. Give me some language to do that. That they be reverse channel letters. That was as approved in the subcommittee meeting, and that they be reverse channel letters as approved in the subcommittee meeting.
Can we make the recommendation that both north and south be centered, not just north?
Yes, that would be my motion.
It sounded like a friendly amendment. Is it accepted?
So per
To your
the
motion?
subcommittee recommendations, because we don't actually approve in subcommittee, the recommendations.
The friendly amendment is accepted to my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Before I call roll, I just want to make sure that everyone feels that everything is included within that motion, and how important it'll be as we see sign applications or decisions are made from this point forward. And if so, then I will call roll.
I want one clarification. On the side of the building facing Poplar, that will be left justified also?
Yes, I will also, yeah.
Well,
Not necessarily. That's an option they will bring to staff.
Well, that would be encroachment.
They need to design
On
it so it
bank,
does not
yeah.
encroach, but it might not necessarily be left
Gotcha.
justified.
Okay.
Very good. Please call roll.
Mr. Schmidt?
yes.
Mr. Hurley?
Yes.
Alderman Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Lanweir?
Yes.
Chairman Bruns?
Yes. You have your approval with those
We'll get
stipulations.
busy in the morning, get started.
We look
Committee
forward.
members.
When are you opening?
He said he's doing a soft Monday and then
Monday?
official
Coming Monday?
opening Tuesday. That's what he's told me.
Very good.
So many words. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Cameron, is there?
Thank you.
Cameron, I guess I'm looking to you. Is there some type of, Mr. Bolton, just before you leave, there may be, is there any type of temporary signage? Because recognizing it's going to take a little while to get some constructions, I don't know, I'm asking you that. I can't remember what we allow for a grand opening or something like that that you might utilize in the meantime.
Off the top of my head, I don't want to respond to that.
Okay, that's
But
fair. Get with staff.
your other members of the DRC did ask that question, so we were going to take a look at that in the morning and be prepared
Great.
with something.
Thank you.
But Sheila,
Yeah, I've actually discussed temporary signing with the applicant and with Neighborhood Services. They were looking at doing a logo, a decal logo on their doors, which is not permitted because of the size of it. So they instead looked at doing the rubber stopper type attachment to the door that has the opening soon logo on it with the hours and everything on that. And so working with Neighborhood Services, we're looking at trying to approve something of that nature for them.
Thank you. Very good. So we're going to move on to some housekeeping here with item number 7. The terms now for the DRC.
yes, thank you, Chairman Bruns. We all enjoy spending time with you, so we thought we'd make your terms a little bit longer. The modification to the amendment would be to move from 1-year terms to 2-year terms. There would be staggered appointments so that half members would be appointed in alternate years. This would be done by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen as it's already done. It's a pretty simple amendment to the ordinance, but as with every ordinance amendment, it needs to be approved by the body that it would be dealing with and then go through a 3-reading process at the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Thank you.
Part of our thought process behind this after talking with other members and just thinking about member attrition, people moving, aldermen Also having different opinions of how the DRC works, at least having some continuity and education and historical value added, at least for 2 years on the DRC. Plus, this is as you all know or starting to learn in Mr. Gibson's case, this is a complex body, and so a little bit of training wheels is necessary in the first year before you get your head wrapped around everything. So a 2-year term is rather effective in helping to add confidence to the commissioners.
I agree entirely. Any further discussion from anyone? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to the regulations on the term of Design Review Commission.
I'll second.
Very good. Please call roll.
Mr. Gibson.
Yes.
Alderman Owens.
Yes.
Mr. Hurley.
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Lanweir.
Yes.
Mr. Sherman.
Yes.
Chairman Bruns.
Yes. Would like to make a note that Mr. Landwehr's 2 years started January. Item number 8, please, Cameron.
Item number 8 is an amendment to the DRC bylaws. The amendment to the bylaws specifically addresses the item that you just voted on about the changing of the terms from 1-year to 2-year terms, but it also talks about the modifications, additions to the agenda. Changes are being recommended to Article 6, clarifying how upcoming agenda can be revised by the DRC prior to a scheduled meeting, as the existing language is unclear as to when a change can occur and how it needs to be approved by commission members. New language ensures that the process is clear and understandable to all. As you can see in Article 6, adding the language specifically in the second line, starting at the end of it, prior to the scheduled meeting shall be allowed except by unanimous consent of the entire membership of the DRC, Design Review Commission. The agenda may be amended or added to only by the unanimous consent of the members present at the meeting, and only upon motions presented at the meeting to add a matter to the agenda. And this is for the previous language, existing language. Matters may be presented to the meeting and shall be prepared not later than 1 week prior. So this just helps to clarify that language. And then in Article 7, we wanted to talk about the committees, and really the idea of the subcommittee has evolved. Originally, the bylaws just addressed a sign subcommittee, and now the subcommittee's work really works on every aspect of applications that come to the DRC, so that it makes the work at the executive committee portion of the meeting, as well as the regular meeting, a little bit more fluid, so that you can have the work session ahead of time. So modifying and striking sign, and making sure that all members of the DRC are part of the subcommittee is the major change. And then adding the words, the subcommittee shall review, with the addition of words, applications to be reviewed at the next regularly scheduled Design Review Commission meeting, helps again to clarify what the work will be done at the subcommittee. And again, striking the word sign in item C of Article 7. Staff has enjoyed the work of the subcommittee, because it makes, while it's an additional report and it's additional time, It makes the time at the full meeting a little bit simpler and more direct, and it's a good use of your time, and we hope you feel the same.
I know I do personally, so yes, thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the amendments to the bylaws.
Second.
Very good. Please call roll.
Mr. Lanweir?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Alderman Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Hurley?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Chairman Bruns?
Yes. Bylaw amendments approved and then to be read. Very good. Thank you. And I understand while we don't have any old business, we have a new item of business.
Yes, I have 3 items I'd like to discuss briefly. One is the proposed umbrellas for Rise, biscuits, donuts, and righteous chicken. Second, some of the bushes in front of the Lighting at Domino's sign, they want feedback on that. And then third, the screening of the rooftop units at Casablanca Restaurant. I'm going to bring up on the computer, if you give me a moment, some of these. First, unfortunately, I only have 2 copies to pass around. These are the umbrellas that Rise has proposed. They would prefer orange. They said they would also go with charcoal or black. So they would like your feedback on that so they can order them.
Is there a rough count of umbrellas?
I think 1 per table. How many tables? Well, not necessarily, because
I'm only thinking there's between 6 and 10. Yeah. For the tables on the outsides of the awning, or the.
I can pull up the landscape.
It's orange and then printed in black and white.
Quick announcement,
Please.
please. We would like to propose a work session for the March 8th meeting to start at 5 o'clock, from 5 to 6 o'clock, and then at 6 o'clock have the DRC subcommittee meeting. And what I will do tomorrow is send an email to everyone. Please respond for your availability to be at that meeting so that we can judge whether we will have enough people for a work session or if we need to reschedule that.
That's the 8th?
That's the 8th, March 8th at 5 o'clock.
Got 5 Thursdays in.
Pardon?
5 Thursdays in March.
Oh, wait. I'll be gone. Starts 9th.
So
9th.
basically it would be 5 to 7-ish?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, depending on the number of items we get. Tomorrow is filing deadline day, so we won't know until then.
Okay. But a 5 o'clock start, or 5 to 6 for this work session. Okay. I'm available, but if you send out the email, I'm sure you'll get plenty of good responses. Respond by the end of tomorrow so that you can schedule
Yes,
it?
please.
Okay. Please, everybody.
So it appears that there would be about 6 umbrellas. See, this is the patio layout here. So this area has an awning. So those tables I would assume from umbrellas, I can clarify, but so probably 3 facing the parking lot here and 3 facing top.
No, that's right.
And then this is the umbrella that I just passed around a little bit. So this is the umbrella. They would prefer orange, however, they could be flexible and do charcoal or black. And then, as you saw in the patio layout, approximately 6 umbrellas.
I think the hard thing with the orange is we've stipulated what the sign orange is to be. So how far is that with the corporate orange or the orange that we just potentially, we've approved and already? I mean, in terms of picking something printed off the internet is.
Staff talked with the architect and also asked about maintenance in terms of dirt and other things. How likely would that be to show up on the orange versus maybe a charcoal?
Gray. Yeah.
Question about, I'm just trying to think of other, getting back to the precedent thing, other locations in Germantown where we have awnings. I know Panera has some. Chick-fil-A, do they have red awnings out in their patio?
They do.
As does Wendy's.
Yeah, it's
Wendy's
as well.
too. Okay.
Blood red.
Blood red, you say?
It's red. They're red. Would a swatch help, or what is this decision for tonight, so that they have them, or what the?
They would like to purchase them, and so this was one of the items that had to come back to the commission: the furniture and then the umbrellas, the design and color. The furniture we've already discussed; that's been taken care of. Now it's the umbrellas.
I think if it was to be orange, everyone would want to see a swatch of some sort before we would approve an orange from the internet. If it was charcoal, I think we all have a comfort in charcoal or black.
Okay, I will relay that to them.
Does everyone agree with that?
I will say that when we looked at the furniture to begin with, we maybe jokingly, I don't know, I can't remember what we called the furniture. It was
Sonic.
kind of looked like Sonic furniture. And I would hate to, in my opinion, I don't want this to look like Disneyland. I'm maybe more of a proponent for the charcoal than the orange.
Okay, so if they would like to have orange, then they should bring in a swatch and show how it matches more or less the sign for you to look at. Again, charcoal or black, they could order.
Move forward.
Yeah.
With the understanding the orange is a stretch to begin with.
Okay.
I would say it that way.
Okay, I'll move on to the next.
Go ahead, Senior.
I don't have a problem so much with the orange. It's just me personally, just based on what we've seen before. So, but it seems reasonable that we would want to see what it looks like compared to the signage.
Okay.
That's just one person's.
And I have no problem with the color orange.
Okay.
It just extends the corporate color down on that corner.
So there must be UT crowds. No, I said Vegas. Yeah.
All right, if they would like orange, though, I'll tell them to bring back a swatch to show the commission. Okay.
That would be good.
The next item is in regard to Domino's. They are almost finished. However, this is the landscaping in front of this signs. Mr. Pedigo would like me to sign off on this. I personally think they need to be screened a little bit better, maybe some boxwoods or something. But this is, I'm bringing this to the commission.
What is planted right now?
That is juniper.
Juniper.
There's two.
And what is the expected?
Yeah, so it could get bigger at some point then?
At some point, I think the intention was for the lights to be lowered, I may have heard.
Yeah.
That would be more effective, considering the sign height from the ground. Not sure where that is right now. But
he expressed to me that that would be a larger electrical undertaking to lower the lights.
in my opinion, the larger the plant, you begin to block your sign, but that's what's going to be necessary to block the lights. So there's a conflict there.
Yeah, and then, honestly, it seems like you ought to just have a row rather than just having these bowling balls stuck out in front of plants. But that, a row would certainly, diminish your view of the sign. It's unfortunate. I'd rather see the lights pushed down. But
well, I can express that to him again, that the lights need to be pushed down, and if there's complete pushback, what would Is there an alternative?
Any sort of evergreen, holly, boxwood, something of that sort.
Okay.
Two or three
Couldn't he
Excuse
have
me.
gone with like low voltage across there versus
line.
hardwired line?
It seems to me there was a landscape plan approved as part of this, and if he's pushing back, then he needs to provide a revised landscape plan that includes both the lighting and the materials to be planted.
That's right. I recall the conversation of the lighting, but I don't recall the landscape plan and what it specified.
I'm getting ready.
There you have it.
I apologize, I haven't looked at the landscape plan recently.
I would,
Oh. Garden wall to match.
I mean, the problem would be solved pretty easy
Yeah,
just with
that's it.
low voltage.
I think it appears as though the landscape plan
It's
might have
right
been
on,
done prior to the sign approval, is what
It
my
used to be a
guess
service
would be.
station. It was approved last year. So right across from Germantown Hardware. Right behind iBank.
Yeah.
It was a pretty big transformation.
It is, yeah,
What
no.
it was, yeah, great, I mean, outdoor patio,
Oh, the Mignonda.
really nice job.
So we just, what are we going to ask of Domino's? Oh, sorry, you're bringing it up. Thank you.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah. So this was what was approved. These are the lights that were approved. So,
So they're missing a considerable amount of landscaping out front.
well, yeah, along here they are. They said this is supposed to be seasonal color, is that correct, Chairman Bruns? And he said he's still waiting to buy the seasonal color.
And he is in the right with that.
Okay.
Yes, seasonal color is not available until April 15th, roughly, if you
Okay.
believe in freeze dates, frost dates. So that, if that is to be seasonal color, certainly that suffices, but I don't know, that's not what's reflective of the landscape plan, so there would be a change in the approved landscape plan.
So needs to bring back the revised landscape plan. And could I work with the chairman on that then, the revised landscape plan?
It needs to come back to the board.
The different plans do?
Yeah, a revised landscape plan needs to come back to the board, especially if he's looking at changing materials or the lighting.
Okay.
Would you please bring that landscape plan back up, just so we can get a peek at that? Right there, yes. That's as approved?
Yes.
I can't.
My understanding was that there had been a conversation that he could work together with staff and the chairman for maybe some alternative plans.
It was my understanding at one point, but I don't
No?
know that to be certain. In order to block the lights, because I do know that the lights became of concern, but I don't even see them appear on that plan of where they're to be located, so
Yeah.
my order of events may be off.
Correct. Okay, then I will tell him he needs to bring that then to the next meeting. Okay. Any other questions on this then? No? Okay. The third item I have that I would like to discuss is Casablanca. Casablanca is working towards screening their rooftop units. This is a suggestion that the applicant brought forward. The original plans showed a screen across the entire top. If you just bear with me for one moment, I'm gonna copy this over and I will bring up whoops, that didn't work. There we go. Bring up the original plans as approved, just so you have an idea. So that's what they are proposing. And then the original plans are, so,
God bless you.
Okay. So this shows the original plan. This here is how it was as approved to be screened. The applicant would like to explore this solution so it's not as monolithic. And also they would like to change the orientation of the boards to be more of a picket fence style rather than horizontal. Thoughts?
Wouldn't the picket fence make them stand out more in contrast to the siding of the building?
That's a question for the commission, I believe.
What is the material of the pickets?
I do see that the applicant is here and the project architect as well, Mr. Turnage.
I'm actually a contractor.
Contractor, would you like to come up and state your name and give some tips?
If you want me to initially address why there's two instead of one.
Please state your name and address for the record, and then.
My name is Scott
Yes.
Turnage. I'm the contractor working for Casablanca to attempt to screen the exhaust units and the intake air unit.
Thank you. And then, yes, why don't we start with why there's two, and then we'll go from there.
Initially on the plan, you'll see there's one large screen that was to cover all the units. If the units had all been placed directly in a row, we could have probably achieved that look. The issue we've got is if you look, it's kind of hard to see, but if you look from the Poplar Pike view, you'll see that the fresh air unit sits considerably to the right and the exhaust unit sits considerably to the left. So it would be one huge screen if I did it with just one wall, or one solid screen. Also, the units sit quite a bit higher than what the plan reflected as well. And that's kind of why I thought going to the vertical might look better with a band around the top.
Pardon me, the materials would be I guess it's masonites on the building, it looks like.
Masonite is on the building currently.
And what would this be made from?
This will be made out, we were going to do it out of fence pickets.
Okay.
And really, it's going to obviously not be part of the building. So I was trying to make it look like it was a screen of some sort. It kind of would fit the style of the building, but obviously it's not an extension of the building because it's nowhere near the building. The fresh air intakes is, but the exhaust aren't.
Sure.
And why fence pickets? Why is it vertical?
Like I said, I'm just trying to come up with something that looked like a screen, but didn't look like you were just trying to. To me, it would look better to have something different, but of course, everybody's got their own opinion. To me, I thought it would look better to have something different and not have something that mimicked the building where it would just look like, why is that there, kind of.
I have a vision of like a crate sitting on a roof, like a delivery, is what I'm envisioning, and that's what I'm fearful of.
Fence pickets are not going to be appropriate for this application. I would vote that down in a heartbeat.
Well, then I'll just do what's on the plan, if that's what y'all want.
Well, I will speak to that. I do like the two. I think that is appropriate for the size it is. I think that this is personal, I'm not speaking for the board, but I would like to see it painted to match the building in a horizontal siding out of masonite, made to look like a partition wall, a parapet wall. And that's personally. Please, everyone else, speak up if you have an opinion. I know, Christopher, you're churning over there.
No, I tend to agree with the fence pickets. It's just not appropriate for the location of screening that. And I also agree with your notion of trying to separate those two, just in terms of how far those have been split apart, and it would just make the massing even that much.
It'd be massive.
Right.
I do think masonite, horizontal, and there needs to be some sort of a cap on top of it to kind of finish it off. Does not need to have.
Just a trim, similar with what I was going to do with the fence.
I think we'd like to see a detail before it gets put together.
How about the detail that's on the plans?
Can we pull that up?
So there's a little bit of a cap here.
Like a 2x6 cap of some sort?
I don't imagine there's a section through that.
I couldn't read that if it was.
That's just the plan of the mechanical area, or that previous drawing that you had? Oh, right there, the bottom.
Here, let me turn it for you. Back there.
That's the parapet wall, yeah.
Can that be zoomed in?
Yeah, that's actually different. There's more of a cap on that one than the other. The other one did look like just a two, that's it. That.
It says
How about the lower right-hand corner?
I couldn't read that. I am as blind as I could be.
2x4 treated.
6 treated cap.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah, I think the only change I would maybe make is maybe instead of putting treated out there and then having to wait for the moisture content to get out before you paint it, you may just want to put a cedar cap up there so you can paint it sooner.
Yeah, we could probably cap it like PVC, a PVC board that would get immediately painted.
Yeah,
I like
that, like I said, that was just my concern of maybe putting treated up there and then
Right.
having to come back.
It wouldn't work.
Right.
Is there a little piece of trim underneath that cap? I can't see that far.
So Timothy, is there
It looks like it's just a it looks like there's just a 2x4 underneath of it that the cap's sitting on top
2x4
of.
in section.
So if we use masonite, we want to do a 1x4 end, 1x4 corner, piece
So
of trim.
how
on
like
the
there would
top.
be a freeze board underneath?
Right, no, it'd be nice if it was trimmed out like that, so the whole thing is,
Siding?
yeah, because otherwise, what are you gonna do with the siding on the corners?
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trim piece vertically at each.
If we could agree to something here,
Ends.
it's easier, because it's kind of a weird deal, Nero drew these. And so, because of the now conflict, he doesn't really want to have anything to do with the plans now, so I have to go get somebody else totally new. So if there's some way we can do this way, it would be much easier and less expensive.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
But I think I know what y'all want to see. You just want it trimmed out, like you would trim out a house. where you have
Exactly.
the trim board
Yeah,
with the board
can you
and
put
the
up,
board across
you
the
pull up
top.
is there a photo that kind of shows the corner
And all painted to match
On the existing
on the
building.
existing building
color,
right now?
whatever approved building color was.
I think one that you already had up.
There we go.
Yeah, go on from the Poplar side. Yeah, I mean, you can make a hint of it, but I'm assuming there's a corner board there.
There it is.
If not, I agree. I mean, trim it out as a 1x4 corners and rail before the cap goes on, and I think that would it would clean everything up and put it closer to. I think the original intent was more of a screen wall that matches the siding in itself.
Right.
If everyone agrees with that.
I
think
do
it'll
have one
blend in a lot
question.
better.
When I looked at the framework, is that set above the shingles? Is there a space underneath it?
Yes, sir. So it'll
So
drain.
that the water can drain off?
Yes, sir.
It's not going to back up in there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a safe distance for combustible materials? Right. I guess it's just grease flying out of that thing for the most part.
There are manufacturer recommendations on that. I think,
I would just
you know,
double
they
check
need to be
that.
followed. I don't know. I'd hate
looks
for
tight.
I'd hate for there to be a fire because it was set too close. So it might behoove you to look at the manufacturer cut sheets on those grease hoods and see if there's a offset that's required, not only for maintenance, but for fire safety.
Yeah, just so you don't put yourself at liability.
Those type of units, there is only a fresh air intake because you don't want to block the air going into it. But the exhaust is straight up. There's no setback on the exhaust. But you do have to maintain, when you approach the exhaust hood to get to the motor, you have to open it up on a hinge. We have that side removable.
We're not code enforcement, we're just making a recommendation that it be properly installed.
Yes. Well, good. I think we have direction on that. So would we like to see a final detail, or how do we move forward from here?
So I know he would like to move forward as quickly as possible. The question is, how should we bring that information back? Does he bring it back to staff and I coordinate with one of you on the commission? Does this come back to the meeting?
Yeah, we'll look to Sheila. But I think,
Yeah, I think in this case, because the board gave clear instructions originally, that it is something that can be coordinated with either the chairman or one of the other two members on the board that have the background architecture.
I'm sure Christopher or I would be happy to review anything they would like to submit and expedite this.
And Mr. McLean, just to clarify, staff can communicate individually with a member on the commission about this application, just not to the commission as a whole?
Yeah.
Outside of the meeting, okay.
very good.
And I think if you just provide a sketch, I mean, even if it's just like, okay, this is X length depth, and, I don't think it has to be anything that you need to go out and hire services for. I'm sure you're fine with just a simple sketch. It'd be fine. And it's probably basically just detailing what we already talked about and just giving some lengths, just so it's part of the revision to what's already been approved previously.
Okay, I draw up a detail.
Yeah.
And one other recommendation is to make sure that you're painting all members that this framework is made out of, not just the siding and the cap, anything coming up from the roof. I would suggest painting all sides of that framework.
It's all treated. You wouldn't want to, even if you paint it, you wouldn't want to put raw wood up there, or white wood up there and then paint it, because now you got a maintenance issue.
I do not want to see raw wood, period.
Oh, no, I'll make that happen. You won't see the raw wood.
Yeah. Which would, essentially just be the verticals coming up, I'm assuming.
You're not going to see anything.
Okay.
It's going to all be covered.
Got it.
It'll all be covered, and if there, by any chance there's, where we do have a gap for drainage, if you can see something, I'll make sure that it's painted. Okay. And I'll express that on the detail that any exposed wood we paint.
Sounds great.
Wonderful.
Anything else?
So thank you for your time. Those were my 3 items. I don't know if any of the other staff have items they'd like to go over.
Well, very good.
Thank
Very
you.
productive. Yes, thanks for coming forward with the detail and getting that built. That's wonderful. We'll all look forward to not seeing the vents.
Just shoot the detail.
To staff, please. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank
Sarah,
you.
to Sarah, I guess specifically.
Yes, you can coordinate with me and all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there is no further new business. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
But yeah, pictures on your phone?